Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to Finding Your Voice, Finding Your Power. We're so glad to have you here today for day 2 of Parent Empowerment Day. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to our board member, Alicia Winfield. Alicia.
Thank you, Scott. Hello, everyone. I am so excited to be here today, and I hope you are enjoying Parent Empowerment Day so far. My name is Alicia, and I am a proud member of the Board of Directors for Crystal Stairs. I am happy to be here to introduce a panel discussion made up of our very own Community Voices program members, as well as September Hill, a former Crystal Stairs staff member who will be the moderator for this program. September is the program manager for advocacy and outreach at the NAACP Hollywood Bureau. She is responsible for developing, organizing, and managing the NAACP's advocacy and outreach efforts within and beyond the entertainment industry. September has over 15 years of experience working in television production. She has worked on several award shows, music specials, sitcoms, and large sporting events. She earned her bachelor's degree from University of Washington and her master's degree from Pepperdine University. Go Waves! September currently lives in Los Angeles with her husband and 2 children. September will introduce the rest of our panelists, and they will tell their own stories throughout the hour, but they are all parents or providers or both who are part of our Crystal Stairs Community Voices program. This panel will discuss parent and provider advocacy efforts and why advocacy is important for parent empowerment. We will also learn about the Community Voices program and how it has changed the panelists' lives. Now, let's all give our moderator and panelists a warm virtual welcome.
Great, thank you, Alicia. Thank you so much for having me here today. This is one of my favorite programs, and these ladies are some of my favorite people, and it's my admiration for all of you that I'm here moderating today. So our panelists, I think at the end of this hour, you will love them as much as I already do. Judith Terrell is a family childcare home provider. She's been a childcare provider for over 15 years. She's a mentor to other providers, a trusted educator, and advisor to the children and families she serves. She's been a Community Voices ambassador for several years, and she has attended legislative visits and spoke at press conferences and many, many other things. Justine Flores is our family childcare home provider as well. She's also a nurse and a CPR instructor and a single mother of 3. She has been an ambassador and a fearless advocate and a natural-born organizer. She was recently elected to serve on the Child Care Provider Union's negotiation team. So happy to have her. And Yenny Rivera, she is a parent and she is also a member of the Early Childhood Policy Council. She was an early Head Start and Head Start parent here at Crystal Stairs, and she is also a Community Voices ambassador. She's currently a program manager at St. Joseph Center, where she helps administer services for individuals experiencing homelessness. And last year, she was appointed by Governor Newsom to the Early Childhood Policy Council, so we're really proud of her accomplishment. And Lorraine Cantley is also here with us, and she's a parent, and she serves on the Los Angeles County Child Care Planning Committee. And she is also, in addition to being a Community Voices member, she's also an advocate for individuals experiencing homelessness. And she's a poet and a public speaker. And so that was a recent appointment to the committee, and super excited for that opportunity. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to kind of frame our time together. I'm going to really let you guys share about your experiences, because I think what brought you to the program, what you did in the program, what you got out of it will resonate with the guests that are here with us today. So I hope that when the guests leave this session, they will know 3 things. 1, know more about the Community Voices program and how to take part in it. Secondly, Understand how advocacy is a powerful and transformative tool to have in your toolkit. And third, hear from you, our CV leaders, on how advocacy is an important part of your personal and professional lives. So just kind of like the tagline of educate, advocate, and empower, I'm going to frame this discussion in that way. Okay. So each of you at some point in your journey were introduced to the Community Voices program. And I want to hear, like, how did you hear about the program and why did you decide to check it out? So if you could each share briefly, because I think that's where maybe some of our guests are at this point in their lives. So please share. Judith, you want to start with you?
Sure. Well, about, say 15, 16 years ago, when Holly Mitchell was the CEO for Crystal Stairs, she started the program and invited a group of providers to come to the initial meeting. During that time, we sat and listened and kind of, wanted to do something, but life took the course that said, no, that wasn't for me at the time. And then a few years ago, maybe about 5 years ago, September Hill took over the program. And I got an email, strangely enough, and I was like, who is September? And so, there was an invitation to come to a Community Voices meeting, and it clicked. I remember when. So I went to the meeting, and lo and behold, September taught me a few things that particular day. And I kind of stayed around and learned more. I became empowered. And then from there, I just started doing the advocacy work that needed to be done for myself, the community, and the people that I work with, and it's been a great ride.
Great, thank you. Yenny?
Hi, so I actually was discovered by September, I think. I was actually in one of the classes that Head Start provides to the parents, and I had gone through Head Start through a subsidy, so I do know what that is like. I was one of those parents kind of sitting in the back because you feel I came from having a good job to suddenly through DV, I had nothing. So I felt like I had lost my voice. And as I kept hearing, I was invited to, we had great leaders. Alvaro was amazing. He was one of the leaders through Head Start. He's still amazing. He was one of the leaders and one of the teachers for that class. And he's the one that encouraged all the parents. He's just natural at that, but he encouraged all the parents. I remember I went to hear about this and I was curious about, okay, what is Community Voices? And, fine, I wanted to participate as much as I can for my child, for my son, having him survive DV, domestic violence. So I was there in that meeting. I was listening about, what is this Community Voices? And I finally decided to answer something. I raised my hand all the way in the back. And September really, I guess, I don't know, something I must have said, must have clicked. And she reached out to me and she helped me find my voice again. And it's funny because that is the name of the program. It's Community Voices, but it's ironic how I have felt that I lost in the system. And then it was through Community Voices and through an amazing leader they had, which was September, that I got involved. I got curious about what it was, and I don't regret it one bit. That helped me, be even the position that I carry right now as a program manager. It was, I'll be honest, it was through the voice that I found myself again through Community Voices. So it didn't just help, the community, but it helped me myself too.
Yeah, I remember that day that Alvaro had suggested that you stick around for the next session. You sat in the back and you're just watching, trying to figure out what is this lady talking about. And before you knew it, you did speak. And then the next week you were in Sacramento speaking to the whole crowd. So yeah, when I find out like what the special skills and talents you each have, you kind of get exploited a little bit. But that was wonderful. And Justine, I think you found us by accident.
Well, let me be honest. I was attending a training and seeing the individuals in the room next to me were laughing and having fun, sharing information that actually interested me as opposed to the one I was in. So I walked out of my training to be nosy. And I just sat in the back. I enjoyed the fun. I listened and I learned so much information that day that was vital and pertinent to life. And little do you know that years later, I would still be involved with Community Voices, and I don't believe I'm leaving.
That's good. That's good. Lorraine, I'm going to ask you, are you here? I don't see her. She's here, right?
She is currently trying to join. It sounded like she was in as a participant trying to get on the panel as we speak.
Okay. Okay. So when she's back, can you guys let me know, and then I'll ask her questions. Okay.
Sure.
What can you guys share? What's your favorite memory or experience from the program? Maybe you can name one. Justine.
One of my favorite memories has been when I was given the opportunity to stand on the steps of the Capitol. It was kind of embarrassing that day because I was quiet. I had just came from a long day, hair messed up, coming off a bus for hours, but I felt encouraged. I knew I had a voice, and I knew all the trainings that I had went to, and it was utilizing what I had learned, utilizing the fact that, hey, we were here, we're empowered. It's time for people to listen to us. It's time for these politicians to wake up and say, hey, you know what? These people really came all this way, spent all these hours with a crowd full of children, crying, all babies whining, wanting to be breastfed, and others trying to run around and trying to escape in an airport and trying to escape from the planes and jumping on in a limo that wasn't ours, by the way. And yeah, and going out to the lawn where I wasn't supposed to be because I guided the guy in the wrong direction, but that's just me. So that was my greatest moment when I was actually dropped off at the steps and advocated, used my voice for parents, children, and providers to speak for them, to speak in a way that would get through to the politicians,
Right.
And let us be heard.
Yeah, I think it is that on the hands-on training. Like you can hear it in the workshop, but when you're there on the steps in the office talking to the legislator, you realize they really care about what you say, and only you can say it. You know, staff members can tell a different story, but your lived experience means the world and is so powerful. Judith, do you have a special memory or experience?
Sure. I have lots of special memories just by being a part of Community Voices. But like Justine, my favorite memory is my first time going to the Capitol. It was so inspiring for me to see all of those parents, providers, and especially the children who had come out that day just to let the voices be heard. The group of parent voices and community voices, they all mixed together and just stood right there on the steps of the Capitol. And then when we all got our turn to go and speak with our senators or their representatives and to tell them why we were there and why it is that they had to listen to us and why it is that what we had to say was important. And they took the time to listen. And then to know that the things that we went to advocate for, we ended up getting those things. It ended up, coming to be true. It just made me realize how important my little old voice is. Because I would sit in the back of the room. I would sit quietly. No matter where I was, I would never say anything. But that one day is just empowered me to want to do more.
I think every time, Judith, I would bring you an opportunity or speak at this or attend this, you would always look at me. I don't know, September. I said, I think you'll be great. And thank you for saying yes. And so, because, growth it doesn't happen in a comfort zone. And I think that you are a testimony to stepping out of your comfort zone and letting what is due you come. And I think that that's great.
Thank you.
Minnie, I have a question. How has being part of Community Voices impacted your everyday life?
I think that the reason it kind of I shared a little bit in the previous answer has impacted me because it's changed the way I defend my voice. So I went through something that was traumatic that took my voice and landed me. And like Judith said, nothing is just Justine said, nothing is by coincidence. So even over here in a group, like she was listening, and then she was like, I don't know, that speaks to my soul. And it was speaking to her soul, and she ended up walking there because she belongs there. And I think that's a lesson that I learned from being part of Community Voices, from being a part of with you, working with you, September, and even with Head Start, and when the ladies were CEO and Alvaro from Head Start, was that never let anything take my voice away again. Defend it, and that means even for my child's education, and even as he grows, there's other moms and fathers that are going through the same thing, and if I'm able to inspire that, like the way you inspire me, then that's what I should be doing. And so it's changed my life, and that I'm more of a fighter now, not in a bad way, as in fist fight, anything like, but more of a stamina. You carry a stamina in you and a strength in you that even when bad things happen, you're able to stand up, stand up for right. And algo que me gusta es que lo puedo hacer en español. Y un recuerdo, una memoria que me encanta, que es que por medio de Community Voices, voces comunitarias, he sido entrevistada en español y puedo compartir este mensaje en español. I'm Hispanic, and I'm proud of it. And I think that a lot of our community, especially Hispanics, I would say, colored women, we get lost and we get intimidated. And sometimes because of the language barrier, we have a struggle how to, advocate. And I think that Community Voices have taught me to make sure that in everything that I do, I carry my community's voice. And that is not only for women, of a mother, a single mom, or somebody who survived domestic violence, but also of somebody who speaks Spanish, comes from an immigrant family, who was blessed to be born here. But I know what that is. I know that struggle. So I carry a lot of faces in me. I also carry the face of somebody who doesn't fall into stereotypes, because I had the resources. I had a great job. I had a job where I didn't qualify for any subsidy or even WIC. I didn't qualify for WIC. But, fortunately, something happened in my life that was traumatic, that ended me being, poor, literally with not even a vehicle anymore. It was taken away from me. So I speak the language of, I don't fall into your stereotypes. And now I carry that story instead of with shame. Thanks to Community Voices, I carry that story with pride. And I love that. It's changed me forever.
That's great. Thank you. Now we'll move on to the advocate and advocacy. Last year, Justine and Judith, the pandemic hit, and the stay-at-home orders were put in place, and childcare hung in the balance. And there was this really dire need for the childcare, and also a fear for our health. And it was a real challenge, especially for providers and parents during that time. And I just remember like that was yesterday, that those calls and where we found ourselves, and like trying to figure out how the heck can we get through this. And I just wanted you both to share a little bit about the challenges that you faced at the time, and some of the decisions you had to make as a child provider. So Justine, do you want to start?
Sure. I didn't know there was a pandemic going on. Being quite honest, I didn't know. I was in the hospital. I had emergency surgery 2 days prior. It was a life or death situation. So I had the surgery. I come out, and 2 days later, after having my surgery, I come out and my phone starts ringing. One call after another. Mind you, I'm in a wheelchair with tubes coming out of me, drainage tubes, the worst situation ever, still in pain, and I was called to work. I couldn't go back to the hospital. The hospital wasn't calling me. It was parents calling me. Other essential workers, medical personnel, people that are crucially needed in this field. They had no options. So I even had a pregnant mother at that time. She was ready to be due and she had to go back. So with that being said, and I'm in a wheelchair, I had to care for infants. I had to care for older children. I couldn't turn my families down because my families were so good to me and they've always been there for me and I've always been there for them. We are our own pod. When I have these children with me, they're not just daycare children, as people see them. They're not temporary. They're an extended part of my family. And as an extended part of my family, you never let them down. You keep them in your heart and you hold them dearly. So, me being who I am, wheelchair and all, I learned to carry 2 children with a drainage bag, with an IV pole still hanging from above me. I fought at the market, argued with people to give me an extra gallon of milk. Why? Because we didn't qualify for getting 2 gallons of milk at the time. You could only get 1, and I'm in a wheelchair. They didn't care that I had to take care of 10 children to feed them and still provide for them. I wasn't counting on that. Why? Because I knew when I got out the hospital, I wasn't about to eat. My diet would be a clear liquid diet. So did I turn that into a negative thing? No, I remained positive. I told myself, God will provide, everything will be fine. These children need a place to go. They need to have security. They need to have stability. Let me return. So I took them with me. We did everything we had to. The children learned to wear masks. They learned to use PPE equipment before CDC announced it. I continued to strive and I taught these children, you can be successful. Community Voices taught me one thing. They taught me your voice matters. Your voice is of importance. People might not always understand you. However, keep fighting, keep pushing forward. So I utilized that. I utilized everything I've learned throughout these years and I kept pushing forward. I cared for these children. I taught my children how to clean, how to disinfect. I taught my parents to join in. I became one soldier with a wheelchair. I'm out of a wheelchair, but yet we're still having struggles. The fight is not over. The money decreased because, of course, parents were getting paid. Enrollment has stopped, but this journey, that's what I call it, my COVID journey, because it is not just a journey that I took in a hospital. That was my start. It just taught me push for more, achieve more. When the one door closes, find another route. If they tell you can't, we learned how to use powdered milk during this pandemic, something I've never done before. But we learned.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I appreciate the fact that Community Voices has shown me that even with the disability, it's not a disability, it's an empowerment. Everything we do and how we do it, we can achieve more. And the pandemic shouldn't stop us from achieving what we can.
Yeah, I mean, one thing about you, Justine, is that you are a natural organizer, you're a natural connector, and you're always looking out for your families and your community. And I just think it really showed this past year how you used all of your resources and your network to be able to help your neighbors, your parents, and other providers. And I know you are a great resource for us as we went through advocacy, because you had testimony. We need to get cleaning supplies, we need our pay, we need all these things, and you were able to say that. And fortunately, like in some places, like I was saying it in meetings, but then we had opportunities where you as providers and parents were able to go into these meetings and say it yourself. And I have to say, that's the most powerful testimony. And we got those things, right? And it was because you guys raised up those needs, and you spoke clearly, eloquently, and passionately about the things that you need. And we ended up getting it, and the fight continues, as you say. Judith, you had I had interesting conversations with you too, because when that hit, I was checking in on everybody, and you were saying, how it was hitting your parents. how you had to make choices for your own self. Can you talk a little bit about what you were going through?
Well, when the pandemic hit, of course, we all kind of panicked a little bit. We had, our fears about what was going on. And when they started talking about the age group that is hitting and who's more at risk and things like that, I had to stop for a moment and ask myself, what am I going to do? So I decided at that point in time that, I'm in business to support families who has to go to work. And so what do I need to do to take care of myself so that I can provide the services that I've always provided? And I did just that. I had that following Monday, my business was back up and running because I had parents who were essential workers that had to go to work. And I'm here. I've been here for you. I'm going to continue to be here for you. And so we just continue to move and to roll and do the best we can. Half of my children were at home. The other half were here with me. I had more infants because parents now who are beginning to come home and to work from home simply can't work and manage your infant and or toddler. So we had to, we just had to continue to do what we had to do. My assistant, a trooper, she just kept right on working with me. So, we were able to provide and do what we had to do. The struggles that we had to face was initially, getting the additional PPE that we needed, getting the cleaning supplies that we needed, and being able to help others who didn't have, because there were a lot of people who were seeking and looking for stuff. Do you have this? Do you have that? And for those who couldn't find it, they had to close because they weren't able to, maintain. But if I could help someone with things that I had received or a resource that I had for them to get, cleaning supplies, I'm more than happy. I was able to, help a few people in that respect, as well as helping my family and the families that I serve. So, we just kept right on doing what we had to do.
That's great. I love that. And, the economy took a hit too. And so the economy relies on having childcare. And so as you guys were struggling with the society and the economy rely on you guys to stay open. So it was just a really catch-22. I wanted to address a question in the Q&A. Someone was talking about that they're a single parent of 3 and they used to be shy and quiet, but they're always afraid to speak up because what the outcome could be. What advice can you give people who are afraid to say something? And I think I need to direct that to Yenny.
Yeah, I was reading that question as you were reading it too. And that sounded so familiar to somebody I know. So it's hard, especially when you live things that when you feel like you fall into stereotypes or you live things that break you, or I know what it is, the stigma of being a single mom. And I know that what it feels like, the labels that you carry. I can understand what you mean about here comes another one who wants free things or complaining. But I feel like there's nothing better than to be the legacy of our children. So forget everybody and think of, what do you lack that you want your children to have? And for me, it was many things, but for me, one of them is that voice, that to know from being a child that that he's valued, that he's treasured, that his opinion matters, that he should never let injustice, even in a classroom, even in first grade, even in elementary. I believe that we are our children's first teacher. And I love what Justine said, because it's true. When we hand them over, that's what we're here advocating. Because when we hand them over, we pick where we're going to leave our children carefully. We want to trust. And I love what she says, we're in a pod, because it's true. I know with my provider, I still speak to her. My child doesn't go to, but I still speak to her. I still reach out to her. I still see her because you do become a family. We are trusting our children, somebody who we know are teaching them. But for us, we are their first teacher. So I think finding that strength in you and reminding yourself, I'm not doing this for me only. I'm doing it for my children. You have three. You're doing it for your three children where you want them to learn, maybe never to fall in the wrong hands. And how do they learn that? By having that backbone, that tenacity, self-confidence that maybe we don't have. And it's not that you've been a hypocrite by trying to teach that and you don't have it yet. It's that ironically, as you're teaching your children to have that self-confidence, guess what? You have it too. You wouldn't have caught me speaking here or saying, hey, I survived domestic violence when it barely happened because you feel like, how dumb can you be? Oh, did you not realize that he was aggressive? How did it happen? You feel like all these people's, opinions are in your face, even though they're not talking, but you hear them in your head. So I can relate to you and that shyness that I don't know if I should say something. What do I say? How do I start? And I think if you just start by saying joining community voices and allowing people who are guiding community voices to teach you, okay, we believe, how like September was saying, she saw in Justine, oh, I think you'll be perfect for this. She saw in Judith, I think you'll be perfect for this. And Lorraine and me, people who are around you who maybe this is their job to be able to guide you to find your strength. What is your strength? There's a strength in you that you haven't discovered, or maybe you're hiding it because maybe in your youth, or maybe even our family, our parents, sometimes our upbringing is not the best and they've broken it in us. But then you can teach your children to not fall in that cycle. And it's funny, but that's like a breaking of a cycle of abuse, if you notice that. It is. Sometimes the way our upbringing is abusive, and it like, who are you? What are you saying? You have no voice. And then we lose our voices. But I think you just have to do it for them. And then little by little, you'll start doing it for you. But if you don't start just by joining, for example, community voices and saying, you're right, I want to be able to defend my children's education. Start joining your neighborhood council. When there's meetings at school, even if it's through Zoom, join the meeting and then I challenge you. Ask a question or an opinion and test it that way. And little by little, you're going to feel more comfortable talking. So I challenge you, join a meeting, the next school meeting that you will have for your child, one of your children's school, and prepare and practice in the mirror, but prepare that question. A little by little, you're going to be like me where they're going to have a time clock on you.
Yeah. I think what I've really enjoyed seeing is how when we come together as a group, it's not all one directional. The
Right.
lessons are not one direction. Like you each have something to bring to the conversation and to contribute to the discussion. And so we learn from each other. And then also you start to see peer to peer and how you guys are relating to one another, and you have found your support network through these meetings and so forth. So I think that that's really one of the side benefits to this was seeing how you each grew and were supportive of one another, and allowed you to learn that your voice mattered and to get that confidence because you have your girlfriend next to you saying, let's go, you can do this. So and that's what you guys do for one another. Justine, I wanted you just to go back just for a second about the advocacy efforts that were made during the pandemic, and then Yenny too with the Policy Council. Can you just briefly kind of describe like the key things that you worked on this past year during the pandemic that helped you get the things that you needed? And then Yenny, tell us about the Policy Council. Okay, yeah, Justine.
Okay, during the pandemic, I realized that there was a shortage of diapers for the parents. A lot of the parents were saying, I can't find diapers, I can't find diapers. Being a couponer myself, I thought, well, let me go to the stores and go get them. Taking all my coupons, that didn't work. So I advocated. I went out into my community. I reached out to organizations. I went all the way to Texas reaching out. I ended up collecting over 1,000 diapers, distributed over 1,000 diapers, massive diaper banks opened up for the community, had lines and lines where the people of the community came, where individuals from TV stations didn't know that it was happening. And I invited them. I told them, invite anybody. I don't care who they are. Open up your trunk. We're going to distribute these diapers. That's what we did. We brought PPE supplies, the PPE supplies to providers at all the R&Rs. We started advocating. We started collecting. I went as far as going to this is a little embarrassing, but I went to the Mexico border because some of the products were detained, and I had to work with the Mexican immigration officers to bring the supplies to the U.S.
Oh, wow.
And we brought it all the way from Mexico. We organized, we talked, I worked with Chinese organizations, I worked with Korean organizations, and I learned my Korean paid off. Learning Korean, I learned that it paid off speaking Armenian. I learned it paid off to learn Spanish. Because of that, I was able to communicate. I was able to bring that to the table for parents that needed it. I was able to involve others to support me in these causes and bring their locations. A lot of them were hesitant. No, we don't want the virus here. And I told them, look, take precautions. Every day we're exposed to stuff. We don't know what's going to happen. I'm doing this. If I can do it, you can do it. Took a lot of calls like that daily. And finally we got through. We brought the items to the individuals that needed it. Another advocacy, there's still more that we've done. I'll tell you about that in a minute.
To the end about what you're currently doing. That's great. I think that, you know, some people are motivated by, yes, you can do this, and other people are motivated by, no, it's impossible. And I think you guys can guess which one motivates Justine. Nothing is impossible for this young woman. Yenny, what about you and the Early Childhood Policy Council?
And I agree with somebody from the chat. By the way, sometimes they go so fast that I can't read them all, but I agree with somebody who said, no, we're not embarrassing. It's incredible. Justine, so thank you for doing all that. You're right. It paid off to pick up along the way. And see, this is the kind of people that we have in Community Voices, and that, you know, which is why I see the chat and people talking en español, las cosas que ponen en español. Y me gustaría que más personas latinas se involucraran porque nos hacen falta, la verdad. And to answer September's question, something, you know, to the policy council, as she mentioned, I was able to get nominated, and it was thank God, you know, to Crystal Stairs and Community Voices and being a participant, that Governor Newsom then went ahead and did decide to pick me. And I feel like I carry your voices. I feel like it's a bigger responsibility now because I carry it statewide. And one of the challenges that we had was, you know, a lot of the cuts that we were going to see our providers getting. And something that maybe Justine didn't go into detail, but if you realize, I know before we used to say that, you know, providers were getting paid about $350. You know, that's an average. You know, some could be a little more, could be a little less per child. But the reality is, through the pandemic, when you put add on that there's less children, that is more expensive, more PPE. A lot of it, you know, like Justine was saying, even diapers, milk, you know, they were providing for the parents even more. It became more like $1.75 per child per hour they were getting. So that is way below minimum wage if they don't realize that that's the reality of our providers, that sometimes we need to wake up, and as parents, if we want to support our providers and get quality providers, because we want our children to be left in quality hands, we need to fight. And this is what I do. This is part of why I was, you know, selected to be your voice as a parent, to be able to fight for this. And one of the things that we were fighting against, you know, this new budget and Newsom budget, was there was going to be a 10% pay cut. Mind you, I just explained to you that it used to be about $3.50 before, and it was going to become $1.75. Now add that 10% cut. Sure, let's even take away more because we need in a budget. We were refusing. We fought. You should see this chat. We were bombarding the chat. We were refusing to sign. We said, no, our parents, you know, providers, sorry, don't deserve that. We're going to have less quality providers. More providers are going to be closing. As it is, we have a challenge of finding providers that are near our home. Especially, you know, in certain zip codes, low incomes, you have difficulty in finding quality providers near home, because like Justine said, it's not about a daycare. We, like, as parents, people don't realize, especially if they don't have children, or their children are privileged, or their children not in certain zip codes, or if their children are already grown when it comes to our state legislature, for example, they don't realize that, yeah, we do want to choose where our children are going to go. That is not just daycare, but it's a place that, for example, has a Head Start, that was, my case, or that are actually teaching our children. In my case, they were connected to Crystal Stairs. So I love my provider. She works hard, to be able to have quality toys, games, lessons, actual lessons for my child to be able to prepare for kinder. So that's one of the things that I was able to do during the pandemic, was refusing to sign the 10% cut, requesting for more PPE to be provided for all providers in California. Because like Justine said, there was a lack of even milk, diapers, even certain toiletries, wipes. And suddenly the providers were the ones that had to be hunting down with the families to be able to provide these things. So that's the one of the voices that I'm able to use in legislature. And so the good news is that we didn't get a 10% cut. That's the good news. The second news is that we need your support, honestly, to make sure that there's actually an increase in pay for our providers. So the battle's not finished. The pandemic has shown that the pandemic is here to stay for quite a while. As you know, the governor's hoping to go into green zone in June 15, but the reality is that our providers are not ready for that. There's still a lot of support that they need. They're going to come back to a new kind of setting where it's so many protocols, so many rules. If you think that when you step out the door for your job that you have certain protocols or rules that are thrown on you, like wearing a mask, you don't realize that providers have a whole list of pages and pages and pages and pages that they need to follow in order to be able to open their agencies, their homes, their centers. So we need to be supportive of them. So we still need that to support the fight. Like, it's not over yet. And that's kind of pretty much what I've been able to do during the pandemic. I will continue to do.
That's wonderful because, you're one of 9 parents on a council, or one, I don't know how many parents are actually on it. You're on there with professionals in the field, and you're not intimidated to speak out because you know that for you, there's like thousands other parents that need you to say something because you're at the table. So that's super powerful. But you know what? You're not only speaking up for parents because you see the partnership between parents and providers. And I think that's why Community Voices is also unique, because it's not just parents, it's not just providers, it's together, and even your families become part of it. And you build those relationships, and you're a partner, because providers need parents to send their kids to stay in business, and parents need providers to be open, and kids need to learn, and communities need to thrive. So all of these things in together will be really great.
I'm sorry, September. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. But I did get a message from our Spanish interpreter that it could be helpful for everyone just to kind of keep that in mind, that he's interpreting everything, and we could kind of slow down a little bit of our speech. I think just a notch, it might help him out. Thanks.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I don't know if I'm speaking. Yenny's speaking fast. I know that much. Sorry, Ray. The next part I want to move into is the empowerment piece. And that's really my favorite part of the program, because that's where you see how each of you have used your unique skill set and grown it into something really valuable in your life, as an advocate, in your personal and in your professional. So, and it's because you took advantage of opportunities that were laid in front of you. Because you can always say yes or no, but when you say yes, amazing things happen. And stepping out of your comfort zone. Oftentimes I'm like, just trust me, it will be good. Because I wouldn't send you out there if it was bad. So, right, Judith? Usually, so I like you, Yenny, you've kind of talked about your journey a bit. Judith, can you kind of explain like a little bit about your journey into being a provider, and like what has this experience did you discover about yourself, your strengths, your courage, or what have you?
Wow. I can just say Community Voices has turned my life around. Like I said before, I used to be the quiet person that sits in front or back, but I would never say anything. I take all the information in, and that's where it would stay. But when I got to learn about how things work and why it's that way, and why I should use that information, not just for myself, but for others, the families, the community that I live in, how it's necessary for me to share that information. I just start talking to everybody that comes my way. I talk to all the parents. I talk to the friend on the corner. Do you know about this? Do you know about that? You know, and it's like, can you shut up, lady? But it's so important, though, that we spread the word about, you know, what's going on with our providers, what's going on, just, you know, as she spoke about, you know, the things that we're lacking, you know, funding, you know, especially during this pandemic where there's so much that came to light about providers ourselves, you know, just where people didn't pay us any attention per se. They thought we were less than. And to see how much providers have rallied together and have stood up and their voices be heard, and being a part of something like that, being a part of a movement like that, I'm proud to be in that group. I can only say that being a part of Community Voices has really, really impacted my life. It's taught me how to teach my infants and toddlers how to be advocates for themselves as they grow, they learn, and develop. So,
great.
Yeah.
Thank you. You each are impressive and effective advocates. And so I want to ask you each to, like, 1 or 2 words to say, what is your secret sauce? Because I see something special in each of you, but I want to know what you guys think your secret sauce is. So, Justine?
Finding myself.
Finding yourself. Okay. What do you think? Why do people follow you? They do what you say. Why do you think that is? That's some kind of secret sauce. I don't know what it is though. Your personality. You know, it's a secret. Okay. Yenny?
I would say Justine's secret's probably because I see that passion. I think I don't know, it rubs off, like you kind of want to get that energy yourself.
Yeah. Right. How about for
And then
you? What is
for
your secret sauce?
tenacity, healing, and bravery.
I love that.
Yeah.
You have like a word board and put those up.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's funny because my therapist is exactly what I would do. So I think that's
Well, see, that's why you were able to answer it so easily. Judith, what's your secret sauce?
I would say love and passion. Because I love to do things, and I'm passionate about everything that I do.
That is wonderful. I would say right on.
Don't forget, I've encouraged our attendees to share in the chat what is their secret sauce.
Yeah.
Put it out there.
I think, I think my secret sauce is encouraging others to develop into a better self. I think I really found real great joy in that. And that's what was so wonderful about this. I see some love, determination, honesty, passion. That's great. Let's see if there's any questions here in the Q&A that we haven't had a chance to. Somebody wants to know how they can be part of Community Voices. We're going to have Monique come on at the end, and she's going to tell you more about the current program. We have so a question about, let's see here, about, this is kind of work related, but I think it takes you to how do you use your voice in your personal and professional life, not necessarily as an advocate, but an advocate for yourself. She says she reported a microaggression at work, and instead of confronting the person that caused the microaggression, she decided to tell her supervisor, who told their supervisor. And she says, I'm not sure I should have told her myself, or if I did the right thing in telling my supervisor. And so I don't know if any of you have had that. Judith, you used to be in HR many years ago. If you want to chime in on this, but I think going to HR about things like this that are troubling is also often a good step. And I think calling in and calling out in this call out culture, I've learned this technique of calling in and just taking someone by the aside and say, you know, when you said this, this is how it felt. Is that what you meant? And having that kind of conversation. But if those are things that are not uncomfortable, if it's not comfortable, then going to your supervisor or HR is probably a good idea. But Judith, do you have something to share with that?
No, I would agree with you in, the calling out. If someone says or does something to you, then you would want to address it with them first. And of course, if it's not, then you always want to use the chain of command, while dealing with situations. So if the calling out doesn't work, then of course you would want to go to your supervisor. And if you're not getting the results that you think that you should receive, then most definitely you want to take it to human resources and let them resolve the situation for you. That's usually the best case scenario. So.
Great, thank you. There's another question in the Q&A, and this person says, my oldest son is currently battling depression. As a parent, I feel powerless at times, thinking I can do more to help him. How can I be able to help him out so he can overcome this depression? I think that this person is not alone. There's a lot of mental health issues happening right now, and a lot of new resources being channeled into to help with mental health. But Yenny or Justine, do you have some advice from a lived experience that you would like to share? Advice you might share with her?
Again, I don't want to interrupt, but I just want to make sure everyone did see we are down to our last 5 minutes. Thanks.
What I would encourage as a parent is definitely, I love counseling. I love therapy. I believe there's a big bad stigma against therapy, but it's that's why one of my words was healing, because I wouldn't be able to stand in front of you with a smile if it wasn't because of therapy. I carry depression. I still struggle with depression, and it might be a lifelong thing, but I'm able to survive it because that's why I can relate with your child. And I believe that as a parent, we want to make sure that we provide tools for our children. And one of those tools is counseling, is being able to find therapy, and almost think of it as a doctor, when not the first therapist that you find might be the one for your child, but let them be able to have a little bit of a voice and see who they connect with. And it's okay to try more than one doctor until they're able to find a type of therapy, because there's many types of therapy, until they're able to find one that they can connect with. But just don't give up. Keep providing tools. Provide what is it that they like to do? They have a hobby they like to do. Encourage them. I like where somebody put Lorraine. Yeah, Lorraine. Encourage your child on that hobby they like to encourage them every day. Tell them affirmations as a beautiful thing. You are amazing. Don't give up, and don't stop encouraging your child.
Great, thank you. So I think that's all the time we have for questions now. Monia, do you want to share about how they can become involved in Community Voices and what things are coming up?
Sure. Thank you, first of all, everyone, for attending this workshop. I think one thing I can say is that it was very inspiring, but I want to quickly have a chance to introduce myself. My name is Monia Ilunga. I am new to the Crystal Stairs family, and I will be the new community advocacy coordinator. September, thank you so much for moderating, and our panelists, thank you so much for sharing your stories, which were all very inspiring. If you want to know more about Community Voices and our programming, my email address and phone number was in your previous slide. Tell me if you don't mind going back really quickly for everyone who missed it. And I can be reached at this number, and my email address is milunga@crystalstairs.org. I look forward to your questions and any comments you may have. In terms of what we do here at CV, I'm going to give you a quick overview. We educate, advocate, and empower our parents and providers, and I think we were all able to firsthand experience how September, in her role here, was able to empower our parents, teach them how to advocate themselves, and of course, educate them also to advocate for themselves and their families. Our upcoming event is going to be May 18th. At 12:30, we're going to have an equity series with Capri Maddox. It's going to be her giving us an update on all the efforts they've made in terms of equity within LACD and in terms of vaccine equity efforts as well. Thank you all so much for attending, and I think it's going to go back to Scott.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, that's all the time we have, but I want to thank everyone who helped with our workshop today, especially, of course, our incredible panelists. Thank you all of you for joining us today, all of our participants. I can tell